second set of the question, Honorable Speaker, sir, is the disciplinary action that has been preferred against the head teacher and the board of management following the invasion of the school. As I've said, the necessary investigations are being done by the CID and other relevant agencies in the government, and according to the investigations and depending on the outcome of the investigations, those found culpable, the necessary disciplinary action, no doubt, will be taken, because so far there is that one person who has been taken to court, and the investigations are still ongoing, and depending on the outcome, we will be able to take the necessary administrative action, including a disciplinary action to those who were involved in this. The third set of the question, Honorable Speaker, is that the government policy is very clear that indeed nobody is supposed to operate private business within the school premises, and we did establish that before November 2022, there were a number of businesses that were being transacted within the school compound, which was against the government policy, and following the complaints, and more so from the Member of Parliament, the necessary remedial action has been taken on this, and all the businesses that were being conducted in the school have now been closed down. Among the businesses that were being conducted in the school was that one, there was a container in the school where we had a canteen. We also have a swimming pool in the school, which was done using CDF funds by the former Member of Parliament, and we also did establish that indeed members of the public have been accessing the swimming pool, and we are also taking action to ensure that what the school administration, the board of management allowed was not proper, particularly members of the public accessing the school during school days. And since then, we have said members of the public should not be able to access the school during school days, and also been able to establish, Honorable Speaker, sir, the amounts that were collected from that, because the school board of management was being paid. We have also sent auditors and quality assurance officers to establish the specific amounts that were collected from those particular businesses that were being transacted in the school, so that we can be able to make sure that whatever monies that were collected, how they were expended, and if they were not expended properly, then those culprits will be able to be taken necessary disciplinary action thereafter. The head teacher, Honorable Speaker, I admit that indeed there was a transfer for this particular teacher and Mr. Onyango to a school known as Mahiga Primary School, which is within Kasarani. But again, the Teacher Service Commission, after receiving information that the transfer was being instigated by people who would not give proper information, decided to cancel the transfer, and am in touch with the Teacher Service Commission, such that once we establish and conclude the investigations that are ongoing, then we will be able to take further action on the head teacher and anybody who will be involved in this particular act. Thank you, Honorable Speaker, sir.
Honorable Mwenje.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, and I thank the Cabinet Secretary. Frankly, Honorable Speaker, the Cabinet Secretary is giving us information that was in the public domain. Allow me to follow up with two supplementary questions. Is that could the Cabinet Secretary provide the identity of the person responsible for allowing the armed youths who invaded the school? Secondly, Honorable Speaker, can the Cabinet Secretary tell us why a container, he's just admitted that the container is being used as a canteen privately and it is marked NYS. Why is it, can he confirm the container belongs to the school? Is it owned by a private individual? And why is this happening while there's a head teacher and a BOM? How is this appropriate? Can the Cabinet Secretary kindly explain this?
Thank you, Mwenje.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, sir.
Minister, take a few supplementaries. I'll allow 2 or 3. Honorable Bukose. Okay. Just take the notes, then you will answer. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Yes.
I want to ask and thank you, the Cabinet Secretary. I want to ask the Cabinet Secretary about registration of new schools in some of the areas and where you find, and in particular in Endebess constituency, where we have new schools or even young schools without even TSC teachers. What is he doing about it? And what is the ministry's policy about registration of new schools? Thank you.
Sabina Chege.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you to the Cabinet Secretary. Mr. Speaker, I've been a chair previously for education, and I want to thank him for the work he's doing. But Mr. Speaker, my question is on the junior secondary teachers, who, Mr. Speaker, were given contracts by TSC, and as per my understanding, Mr. Speaker, the junior secondary teachers have not been able to be paid, and they have gone for months without salary and pay, and a lot of them are going through a lot of pain. So, Mr. Speaker, I would like the Cabinet Secretary to inform the House on what's the plan of paying the junior secondary school teachers. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Sorry, Wamchomba.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And thank you to our Cabinet Secretary in the House. Mine is to direct a question to the Cabinet Secretary on matters drug and substance abuse in school, noting that the presidency, through the Deputy President, has initiated a campaign to rid off drugs from our schools and from our communities. What is the ministry doing to support this campaign so that we can rid off drugs from our learners, especially in day public schools, both primary and secondary? Do we have a policy that can direct or can guide us on how to harmonize the activities that are done inside the schools and outside the schools so that we can succeed together? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Bahati. Today is the day of the ladies. Give the mic to the member for Bahati.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is directed to the Cabinet Secretary, and mine is to request that you tell us how far are you to complete equipping all the TVETs that the government has put money into, because those institutions need to be used, and unfortunately, they are not in use because we lack equipment. Thank you.
Yes. Hassan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to ask a follow-up question to the Cabinet Secretary for Education. and mine is relating to the schools in Nairobi. Schools in Nairobi are performing very poorly in exams, from the primary school exams to the secondary school exams. And the state of some of these schools, despite the fact that we've invested very heavily in infrastructure through the CDF funds, have teachers who have overstayed, teachers who have gone native, some of them who do private activities rather than focusing on the schools. And some of these schools are run by cartels that do illegal businesses, as you have had from the Embakasi West Member of Parliament. So my question is, what action are you taking as the Cabinet Secretary to address this particular problem, this chronic problem, and reform and bring changes into the schools in our community in Nairobi, so that Nairobi's performance can be as equal to other regions? Because at the moment we are much lower in performance than many other regions that are seriously underdeveloped. And this is the capital city of the Republic of Kenya. So what action are you taking to change things around and making sure that, in fact, these teachers are removed, the schools are reformed, and you address this issue of underperformance or poor performance in our schools?
Thank you. Honorable Kibet? And you call Kibet? No, the member behind you. Kipkelion. Hillary, sorry, Hillary.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The biggest challenge we have in the running of our schools is the lack of teachers, poor staffing, Mr. Speaker. And most of the time, parents pay teachers through BOM. And the Teacher Service Commission had come with a plan of introducing interns to teach in these schools. But the problem is, when vacancies arise, the same interns are recruited and taken to schools away from the schools they are teaching, yet they have a shortage. What is the ministry doing to make sure that when vacancies arise, these interns are given the stations they teach as their first priority? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable. Which way? Now I've given you. Yes, the Honorable Member here. Member Richard Yegon.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I would like to ask the question, the Cabinet Secretary. Could the Cabinet Secretary explain why primary school students and officials from Bomet County who participated in the Rift Valley Regional Athletics Games competition held at Narok County from the 16th to the 19th of April 2023 were not facilitated in good time, prompting unknown individuals to coerce members of the public and to fundraise through social media. Members of parliament from the 5 sub-counties each being asked to contribute 40,000 shillings, and the governor to raise 100,000.
You are making a speech. Ask a question.
This is a question. I've just asked that question.
Yes.
And then, number 2, explain how students and the officials from other 13 sub-county, other 13 counties in the Rift Valley region.
Honorable, you are actually out of order. I gave you room to ask a supplementary question. It has to, order, Honorable Member, it has to relate to what was asked, but I've been allowing members to ask what in law we call a justem generis to the question, related to the question. But now you are reading a statement or something. That is not a supplementary question. If you have a question that is totally different from this, you ask for permission, and the chair will give you room to ask. The minister is here for a long haul. But procedurally, a supplementary question is an extempore question. where you just stand up and ask in relation to a question asked or related to a question asked. Okay, ask your question. And
thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for being
curve,
guided.
but that's
Thank
how
you.
it should be.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, I would also like to know how the other sub-counties, the other counties of 13 counties were facilitated to go to this NAROC competition which was going on for this, which was going on at the 16, between the 16 and the 19. How were they facilitated? And Bomet County was not facilitated, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Member for Owen Bayer, your constituency is KISII North. I'll come to you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I would like to ask a supplementary question following on a question on registration of schools. Honorable Speaker, in KISII County, we have 186 schools that have not been registered. 186, both public and private. These schools have children going to these schools. Some of them have even done Form 4 exams twice. Others have done KCPE twice, 3 times. They have not been registered. The schools are suffering and the children and parents have to keep on paying fees, and yet government can support. Honorable Speaker, what can you do to help the people of KISII County in the registration of schools? I thank you.
Women Rep Isiolo.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Minister, be ready to answer those, then we'll do another round. Just hold your horses. I'm here with you the whole afternoon.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. My questions are specific to junior secondary schools, and these are observations I made in my county. And I want to know why junior secondary school textbooks supplied are for only 3 learning areas out of the 12 which other counties have received. For the case of Isiolo, why only 3 out of 12 learning areas? Number 2, why classrooms and laboratories are not enough for junior secondary school learners in my county? The other question still on J.
Give her the mic. Ask the last one.
Why teachers posted to those schools are not enough? Every school has got just 1 teacher, and that's not sufficient. And finally, guidelines for registration is not available, and also guidelines for lunch is not available for junior secondary schools. That is for Isiolo County. Kindly.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Minister Machogu, answer those 10 interventions. We'll do another round. Members.
Yeah, thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. The first question from the Honorable Member of Parliament for Embakasi is that as a ministry, and I've made this very clear, that anybody transacting business within the school compound, the necessary action will be taken. And there is no doubt what was happening in that particular school, Umoja, actually started way back in 2016. And I have already taken action. There is no any kind of business now going on. And anywhere, not only in that particular school, but any particular school in the country that there is any such business going on, we will be able to close it down and, of course, take the necessary action that is required to be taken. And I assure the Member of Parliament for Embakasi that what we are doing is proper audit such that we are able to establish the amount of money that the school was able to get over the years since 2016 out of the kind of business that they were dealing with. And once we get that, we will also insist to get how that particular money was expended, was utilized, and if it was not utilized, anybody who took the money will be made to pay, and if they don't pay, the necessary legal action will be taken against the Board of Management and any such head teacher who was concerned or involved in that particular malpractice. So we are taking action on that, and that is assured. The second one, Honorable Speaker, is that we don't have militia in that school. What we have is security guards belonging to a company known as Sewu Security Company. They cover security during the day, 2 of them, and also at night, we normally have 2 security guards in that particular school. So we have no militia or illegal other people involved in covering the security of that particular school, apart from that day on the 5th, where there were those people who came to the school who were not authorized to come to the school. The second set of questions, Honorable Speaker, is that when I took over as the new administration in the Ministry of Education, there was a serious problem concerning registration of schools, both in secondary and in primary, because the procedure and the process of registering a school required that there was to be a recommendation from the sub-county directors of education to come all the way to the county directors of education, and finally, the final approval was being given by the ministry headquarters. I've since made changes concerning that particular DTS process, and we have now made it much easier, such that the circular issued to all the county directors in the country is that the county directors themselves, want to get the applications for registering these schools, they should not be able to send the same to the ministry headquarters for approval. They themselves now have the power, they have the authority to register the schools at the county level. And your Honorable Speaker, I have the figures because we had a serious problem in this. Progressively, we have made a lot of progress because the number that we have been able to register since for the last 4 months, ever since we came up with that circular, is quite commendable, and I will request the members, if there are any such schools which have not been registered, kindly bring it to my attention, and I will be able to take the necessary action so that they are registered, because some of these schools have been in existence for the last 4 years, for the last 5 years. Even some are actually going to do KCPE. You get there in Standard 8. There are others in Form 4, and they require to be registered so that they can also get government capitation, as well as getting Teacher Service Commission teachers, because when they are not registered, we don't capture them in names, so they miss out in the capitation that we give our primary schools, as well as our junior secondary schools, including the senior secondary schools, and also they miss out in getting teachers from Teacher Service Commission. So I assure members that anywhere where we have those cases, I undertake to make the necessary action so that we get all of them registered, Honorable Speaker. The third question is one that is not only affecting our schools in primary, secondary, and even tertiary, universities, drug abuse, and substance. This is one serious problem that we have as a country, as a society, which the government is using a multi-agency approach, such that it is not only the Ministry of Education, NACADA is in the forefront in the fight against this. Internal security is in the forefront fighting against this. In the Ministry of Education, we have a policy with NACADA where we insist that various measures have to be taken in order to ensure that there is no infiltration to our schools and our young people are not captives of this drug abuse and substance. And what we have also done, Honorable Speaker, sir, is that we have formed a committee at the national level, which we have said it will be able to cascade all the way up to the counties, giving guidance and counseling. Chaplaincy, we have said we must have chaplaincy in each and every school. We must have teachers who will be doing guidance and counseling in each and every school, because apart from, of course, drug abuse and substance, we also get that our young people in schools are involved in certain other malpractices that can be addressed once we have proper guidance and counseling in our schools. So it's an issue which, of course, we cannot deny that it is affecting our schools, and we are very keen on this to make sure that the necessary remedial measures are taken to prevent our schools and the young people from being involved in these social vices. The other one is TVETs. Yes, 71 of our technical and vocational institutes are supposed to get equipment, and I want to assure the members, honorable speakers, that the Kenya Kwanza administration is very keen on the technical and the vocational training, because that is what the market, that is what the country requires, and indeed that is what will make us as a country to achieve the 2030 vision, and even what we have set as an agenda in the government. And we have entered into negotiations, and I think the Chinese government did make an agreement that they will be able to supply the equipment. Myself and the CS National Treasury have signed that agreement, and I think even the contract that the supplier is supposed to supply the equipment, Africa International, is already on it. So we expect that the equipment the environment around which is making our students not perform, and we are having meetings, conferences. We will also have one in Nairobi, honorable member, where you will also be able to attend, because the meetings we are going to have will be able to inform the local leaders. I was in KISII the other day, and even the member of parliament was also able to voice the same concern, that for years they have not had a student getting an A in Tioro County, and we did agree that we will be able to have an approach where all of us come together and look at a solution in order for our students to be able to perform. And I'm sure that what will really concern the honorable members is, like last year, 354,000 students, not only from Nairobi, but all over the country, got D minus and E, which was 40% of those who did KCSE. There are equally very good schools in Nairobi performing very well, like Nairobi Primary School and the Nairobi Junior School, and quite a number which also perform so well. So we will be able to partner with the area member of parliament and the other local leaders so that we are able to get a solution in this particular program of performance in our schools. I also undertake to investigate, because yes, where you find program principals been in our school for 10, 15 years, even if he was a good performer, it reaches a point where probably you cannot be able to offer anything new in that particular school. And of course, it comes to a stage where we say we transfer them after a time, and we will be able to investigate on that so that we take the necessary action. Honorable Speaker, members know that shortage of teachers is, of course, a problem that we are faced with, not only in one area, but in the entire country. And the Kenya Kwanza administration, immediately it came to power, we were able to employ 30,000 teachers to address this particular problem. Of course, they are still far from adequate. As we move on, we will also be increasing these numbers progressively, of course, taking into consideration that we also look at the economy, because as we employ them, they have to be paid. So this is one problem that we are also looking at, and I'm sure as we move forward, the situation will be better than it is. Interns, yes, honorable members, honorable speaker, we said because of the problem we have, we employ interns. Normally for primary school interns, we pay them 15,000, and for secondary school interns, we pay 20,000. And we say that when an opportunity for employment comes up, we give first opportunity to those who have served as interns. I take and agree that in case a school is not having a teacher in a certain subject, and there is an opportunity for that particular intern to be employed, then we should be able to give that opportunity for the intern to serve in that particular school, as opposed to getting somebody from elsewhere. Before I answer the question for Pomet, I would like to answer the question of junior secondary school by the Member of Parliament from Isiolo. Members, I also want to take the opportunity to thank you most sincerely for your participation in the presentation that you made during the Presidential Working Party, because they were able to move around in the 47 counties, getting views and recommendations on this matter. Of course, we have challenges, and the kind of challenges we have, we are still to have adequate laboratories, and also in certain other schools, enough classrooms. And as a ministry, we are really addressing this issue. We have had an engagement with our development partners, particularly the World Bank, and the negotiations we have made is that the funding we are likely to get will go in alleviating the kind of problem we have, particularly in laboratories. And we thank you also, because partnering with you, we know that it is only a question of time, and we will be able to have the required infrastructural development required in our schools. For Pomet,
yes, Wandai.
Mr. Speaker, I'm sure you must have realized a while back, I stepped out of the chambers and I retreated to my office. But while there, I have really agonized. First, it is the first time, I think, since I joined this parliament in 2013, that a member, in this case, a member of my coalition, has been sent out without...
Order, Honorable Wandai. Order, Honorable Wandai. Order, Honorable Wandai. Take your seat. Take your seat. Honorable Wandai, you are very senior. We are having questions. It's in the middle of a question. And I would expect your point of order would be if something is out of order about what the minister is saying. What you're asking is something spent. You cannot, under our standing orders, retreat out there and come back to challenge the decision of the chair. You also know, and that the chair is not in the business of compounding misconduct. And if you have come back with something else, when time comes, I'll give you to say. But you can't walk into the chamber. Order, Honorable Wandai. You are more decent than that. You can't walk into the chamber and demand to hear about a decision of the chair which is out of order when the minister is in the middle of answering questions. In fact, the reason I allowed you a point of order is perhaps I thought you wanted to say the minister was misleading the House. But if what you are trying to say is what you want to say, I will not allow you. Order, Honorable Wandai. Order, Honorable Wandai. Order. Order, Honorable Wandai. Minister, continue. Minister, continue.
Mr. Speaker, I want to answer the question from the Member of Parliament for Bomet, and I want, Mr. Speaker, this year, the Ministry released a calendar for the resumption of curricular activities for basic education in institutions after we had suspended the same for the past 3 years because of COVID-19 pandemic. Bomet County was able to undertake all the Term 1 activities for both primary and secondary schools as per the calendars given by the Ministry of Education. In particular, the county participated successfully as follows. All the 5 sub-counties within the county held their competitions and successfully presented their teams for competition at the county level. The county held the competitions in all categories, both at the county and the regional levels as given here below. Summer festival for both primary and secondary schools were held at county level, and the winning teams presented to represent the county at the regional festivals that were held in Chirchir, Trans Nzoia County between 20th and 26th March 2023. The county Kenya Science and Engineering Fair was undertaken, and the county team participated in the regional competition held at Nwek High School in Bomet County between the 6th and the 8th April 2023. Secondary school's Term 1 games were held in Bomet East for county level, and the county team participated in the regional competition held in Eldoret between 4th and 9th April 2023. Also, the county participated successfully in the regional SNE games for both primary and secondary schools held in Nakuru between 14th and 19th April 2023. For primary athletics, the county participated in all the sub-counties. Competitions were held in their respective venues. The county competition was also held on the 13th April 2023 at Chepukosiom Primary School in Sotiki Sub-County. The county team participated in the regional competition held in Narok County between 16th and 22nd April 2023. The county was ranked number 5 out of 14 in the region, with the 5 pupils, 3 boys and 2 girls, representing the region in the national competition. For these activities, the Bomet County had so far received $1,500,000 from the ministry. They were able to utilize the funds in the best way possible to ensure that our children participated in the activities as I've outlined. This is in addition to Kenya shillings 578,134 to each sub-county. It is worth to know that the county received support from our stakeholders, particularly the Heads Association of both primary and secondary school, KISII and KESA, for their successful participation. In addition, the county appreciated the support received also from the county leadership and the members of parliament who also supported us in this endeavor. Finally, Honorable Speaker, the ministry also released a total of 312,159,925 in February this year to all in the field education officers to support co-curricular activities. Each sub-county received Kenya shillings 578,134.50. Each county received, as I've said, 1,500,000, and each region also received 2.5 million. The competitions are held in the sub-county level, the county level, the regional and the national levels. Each level manages its own budget, as supported by the ministry. And finally, we are going to have music, the national level, which will be held in Nyeri County, Dedan Kimathi University. Thank you, Honorable Speaker, sir.
Order, honorable members, order. Honorable Mbui, take your seat. Honorable members, take your seats. Honorable Mbui, Honorable and I, from what you started saying when I gave you the point of order, you are veering towards offending Standing Order 107A. It reads as follows. A member commits an act of gross disorderly conduct if the member A defies a ruling or direction of the Speaker or chairperson of a committee, and more relevant, C, demonstrates or makes disruptive utterances against the suspension of a member. You appeared to be asking, challenging the order by the chair to exclude the member for Alego Songa from the proceedings of the House. The Speaker sits here, the Speaker listens, the Speaker watches, the Speaker hears, and the Speaker can also decipher from what is going on in the House. That you didn't hear the offensive words that the member uttered does not mean he didn't utter them. Secondly, by the Speaker repeating those words amounts to compounding an offense on the floor of the House. And the Speaker cannot and will not regurgitate what the member said. The member has been sent out in a proper manner, and an attempt to challenge that offends Standing Order 107A, which you yourselves passed to govern the proceedings of this House. When you stood on a point of order, I thought you were going to challenge the veracity or accuracy of what the minister was saying. It turned out to be far from that. And the chair will not allow any member, whether in leadership or not, to engage in challenging rulings and directions from the chair, because the standing orders don't allow that. So let's carry on with taking other supplementaries. If you have questions to ask, I'll give you the chance. If you want to ask about the suspension of Honorable Atandi, I will not give you. Honorable Mbui, I have never known you to conduct yourself in the manner you are doing. I have never, and I've been with you for a very long time. Please regain your decorum that I know. And let's have the House run in proper order. Those with supplementaries, Honorable Johanna Ngeno.
Thank you, Speaker. I wish to ask the Minister concerning the issue of delocalization, which were discussed and done both in this House and outside, and found to have been an illegality. And it was reversed. But the teachers, Mr. Speaker, who was sent on that delocalization process, when they came back to their original areas, they were denied to go back to their schools. I wish the minister to tell this House what exactly the ministry is doing over that issue. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Kitui South.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, and thank you, Cabinet Secretary. I would like to ask the Cabinet Secretary whether he is aware that many junior secondary schools in KISII were rejected by the Ministry of Education? And what action can he take to ensure that children who are walking for many kilometers to and from school can be assisted? Can the Cabinet Secretary order that these junior secondary schools are accepted so that the distances to schools can be shortened? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Didimas Barasa.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I want to ask the Minister to confirm whether it's legal or illegal for a principal of a day secondary school to turn away children in the pretext that they have not paid lunch fees. And if it is illegal, what action will the Minister take against principals who will continue to lock out children from sitting from the exams and learning because of failure to pay lunch fees, yet the government has paid their tuition fees in totality? I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Member for Ganze. Member for Ganze. Give the mic to the member for Ganze. Honorable Kazungu. Is it Kazungu? Where is the member? There you are. Give him the mic. Member for Ganze.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and also thank you, the Minister, for coming here to answer our questions. I have an issue, and it's about the school feeding programs. Mr. Speaker, I come from Ganze, where the poverty levels are very high. And one of the factors that contributed to high school enrollment was the availability of school feeding programs in all primary schools. Mr. Speaker, this was a very good program, but at some point it was discontinued. And as a result, many students have dropped out of school to go and do manual jobs to fend for themselves and their families. So my question to the CS is, why was this school feeding program stopped? And if there are any plans by the government to revive it? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Malulu Injendi.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is this. When it comes to private business in schools, I don't know if the CS is aware that schools are also involved in private business in selling uniforms, where parents are asked to pay money through some pay bill number, and they charge very high amounts for uniform, socks, shoes, utensils, rim papers, etc., etc. My second question.
Only one, Malulu.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member for KISII, Women Rep KISII.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. When it was well known that the GSS teachers are not enough in schools, you found out that the GSS pupils were being sent to the river to collect water. This has proved to us that there are some school-going children who carry jerrycans from home to school to collect water. What is the CS doing to curb this menace of pupils in our country collecting water? Also, we've not seen sanitary pads being distributed in our schools. He should answer on sanitary pads and going to the river. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Rahab Mukami.
Thank you, Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I want to ask the Cabinet Secretary regarding the sanitary pads. I am the Chair 47, and we went to see the HE, and he gave an order that the sanitary pads should be channeled through the women reps. Our CS, kindly let me know the progress, because the schools are opening on 9th, and we have not seen the sanitary pads in our schools. Thank you.
Minister, answer those. Honorable members, the next 3 questions are on education, and I can see we're asking questions about our constituencies and issues education generally. Let him answer those 3 supplementaries or 4. I'll allow the next 2 questions, then I'll allow you to ask the questions that you have. So just hold your horses. I said hold your horses and you lift your hand, Mama. What's the problem? Honorable Member
Thank you.
Mombasa, I'll give you a chance. Just hold your horses.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. The first question concerns the localization because, as all members are aware, this was punitive. It is something that actually led to the breakdown of families, and we did a reversal to this and said teachers who want to go back to their home counties can be able to go back to their home counties, and we have transferred back to their counties where they had originated from quite a number of teachers. I don't have a specific figure as of now, but next time I will be able to give the honorable members the specific figure of teachers due to the policy we have now as opposed to the localization, which we call nationalization, because we want our teachers to teach comfortably from their home counties or another county that is of their choice. And I know that this is ongoing because, again, there are teachers who have also chosen to be in the counties where they had been transferred to. Originally, where they were, after they were transferred, they have now chosen to be where they are. So there are also quite a number. But again, we cannot be able to transfer them to the exact school because we have to look at staffing of that particular school before we transfer back. Because if it is a mathematics and a physics teacher, and we find the school where he was, that particular teacher is having a mathematics and a physics teacher, then we are able to take that particular teacher to the nearest school of his choice. And I want to assure the members that this exercise is going on. Thank you, the Member of Parliament from KISII, Honorable Rachel Nyamai. Honorable Speaker, I want to assure the members that we did set a criteria when we were establishing junior secondary schools, and we said the guiding criteria, the guiding principle, in order for a school to qualify as a junior secondary school, basically was on enrollment. Does it have enough students such that if we find it has probably 5 or 10 students and we find there's a school nearby which can be able to accommodate a junior secondary school, then we call that particular school which was notifiable as a feeder school. We did an assessment of 32,000 primary schools, and out of the 32,000 primary schools that we carried out an assessment, 23,000 public schools qualified, and also 5,000 private schools qualified. So we have 28,000 primary schools which qualify to junior secondary schools, which are actually hosting secondary schools as of now. And the members are also aware that where you have specific cases, you probably think there's a school which has been left out, like the Member of Parliament for KISII South. I think he came to the ministry and we were able to consider, and quite a number of members have also come, making an appeal, some calling me, and Honorable Speaker, we have been flexible in this, and I will ask the Honorable Member, in case there's a case, she can be able to bring it to my attention, a specific case, and I will be able to take action on that. Fees, ranch, Honorable Speaker, there is a policy from the ministry, and the policy is that all day secondary schools, the government gives capitation to the tune of 22,240. There is no additional levies of any kind that again is supposed to be levied, because you know free and compulsory education is derived from the Constitution, Article 53. And as a government, We don't want to overburden parents, and we have taken action on quite a number of head teachers. The most recent one being the action I took in 2 schools in KISII for those violating and going against the directive which has been issued by government by the Ministry of Education. Lunch meals in school, if parents so wish that they can be able to give money, we have said it is optional. But even when they are optional again, we insist that whatever rates being charged must be reasonable, and if one does not want to pay, he wants to come with the food from home, or he does not want to take lunch at school, you don't have to force him. So that is why we say this has to remain optional, but even where they charge a fee, it has to be reasonable. In equally, uniform, we did say, even those who were advancing to junior secondary school, that the primary school uniform that was being used will still continue being used until such a time that the parents will be able to purchase the new set of uniform. What used to happen there before, Honorable Speaker, is that schools used to insist that they themselves procure their school uniforms. It used to be a centralized kind of system, and we have also, since end of last year, issued a circular that we give the kind of uniform required in a school, and the parents are at liberty to procure the same from any source, as long as it is the school uniform matching the requirements that the school has been able to set out. Ganse, Member of Parliament, school feeding program. Members, you know that school feeding program has actually been going on over the years. I think since 1979, we used to have World Food Program supporting us in this. Since 2017, they stopped supporting us, and the Kenya government has been able to continue with this program in 26 assigned counties. So the 26 counties, the money that you give us from Parliament, like this financial year, you gave us 2 billion. The 2 billion, we have been able to make use of that money in giving food, both in kind and also in cash transfer to the 26 counties. And according to the figures I'm also getting, is that Ganse benefited from the cash transfer. So probably when the Member of Parliament comes, the officer will be able to give him the specific number, amount of money that went to Ganse constituency in the form of cash transfer. And also to thank members, because in the supplementary one, you gave us an additional 1 billion to be used for this particular purpose of school feeding program. Of course, we know there is need even in other counties apart from the 26 counties, but we are constrained because of the amount of funds that you have given us to make use of in this particular area. Water in schools, of course, we also thank the members of Parliament, because we know in a number of our constituencies, you have been able to provide supply water tanks to a number of our schools using the 2.5% money that you normally get. And we don't encourage, Madam, my Member of Parliament from KISII County, that we have students or school children being sent away to carry water to school. That one is again against the policy of Ministry of Education, and the kind where you get those cases, let us know so that we are able to take the necessary remedial action. As the Member of Parliament said about sanitary towels, we have had a discussion in this. The Ministry of Education this financial year was allocated 470 million to procure sanitary pads, which was to be supplied all over the country. But because of the kind of discussions that were being held, that the money was supposed to be transferred to Ministry of Public Service, and others were of the few that the same money should be transferred to the county women members of Parliament, I think there is a meeting which has been scheduled for that particular aspect. We did say the financial year is ending, so we have procured, and once we come together with the members of parliament, the county members of parliament, we will then be able to undertake the distribution to the various schools, taking into consideration that schools are opening on the 8th of this coming month. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, honorable members. Just hold your horses. I'll ask the following members. Minister, be attentive. I want to take 3 substantive questions in a row. Then you will answer them, then we take supplementaries. So just be patient. Honorable Oku Kaunya, ask your question. When you finish, Honorable Abdul Haro, ask your question. When you finish, Honorable Kaunya, you have 2 questions?
Yes, Honorable
I'll
Speaker.
allow you only one today. So choose which one you want. Do you want to ask 103 or 102? 103A or 102?
I will ask 102.
102, go ahead. This one will be listed next time the minister comes. So go ahead.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. My questions to the Cabinet Secretary for Education. Question 102 of 2023, Roman 1. Could the Cabinet Secretary clarify whether the current domiciling of the junior secondary school in primary schools is a temporary arrangement, or learners will later be relocated to the premises in secondary schools? And if so, when will they be relocated? Question number 2, Roman 2. Could the Cabinet Secretary provide information on the amount of public funds that were channeled towards the construction of classrooms in secondary schools, earmarked for junior secondary schools, countrywide, and indicate the fate of those facilities, given that the junior secondary schools are now domiciled in primary schools? Honorable Speaker, that was the first question.
Then that is the first and last. Thank you, Honorable Abdul Haro. Clerks, spare the other question by Honorable Kaunya for next time.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I rise to ask question 103 of 2023 to the Cabinet Secretary for Education. Could the Cabinet Secretary, 1, state measures that the ministry has put in place to enhance the school feeding program in Mandera South constituency in order to retain learners in schools in the hunger-stricken county? 2, further state what measures the ministry has put in place to ensure that the 64 schools in Mandera South constituency which do not have clean water or water storage tanks are supplied with clean water. 3, explain what plans the ministry has to ensure that children whose parents practice the nomadic lifestyle have uninterrupted access to education. Thank you.
Thank you. Member Mashua Waithaka, we'll come to you. Lisa Chelule, just hold your horse.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Could the Cabinet Secretary explain why government-sponsored students undertaking studies in Cuba, particularly those studying family medicine, are not given sufficient, adequate monthly stipend commensurate to the high cost of living in Cuba? Second, explain the reasons for the inordinate delays in remittance of this stipend to the said students. Number 3, state any plans on how the government intends to adequately cater for the affected students to ensure that they undertake their studies in a conducive environment. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Hold on. Minister, you can now answer those 3 questions.
Thank you.
Thereafter, we'll take many supplementaries.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. The first question from the Member of Parliament, Honorable Kaunya, is that the decision to domicile junior secondary school in primary schools is not a temporary arrangement, Mr. Speaker. The matter has been considered extensively, and the decision was made after considering a range of key factors. As you are aware, all the members here, is that a presidential working party was established in order to take views from Kenyans, and the presidential party went around the country, the 47 counties. It was able to engage with the unions, it was able to engage with the experts, and I'm aware, Honorable Speaker, that even there was an opportunity for members of parliament here also to give their views to the presidential working party. And during these stakeholder engagements and the public participation, as it is clearly enshrined in our Constitution, Article 118, this was the outcome, Honorable Speaker, out of the report and the feedback that we got from Kenyans. 86% of the respondents expressed the view that the junior secondary school should be hosted in existing primary schools. 86. Only 11% advocated for hosting the junior primary schools in the existing secondary schools, whereas 2% were of the opinion that the new junior secondary schools should be built. So you can see, being a democratic country, 86% of Kenyans said the primary schools should be domiciled in the existing primary schools, and the report, the interim report, was given to His Excellency the President, and following that, we did implement what the Kenyans said, that we domicile it in primary schools. The key factors given by the stakeholders that led to that particular decision, Honorable Speaker, to domicile junior secondary schools in the existing primary schools, the reasons were given as follows. One, it was established that the age of this category of children is between 10, 11 years of age. The developmental stage of the runners in terms of age and the cognitive abilities, you can be able to see the way it is considering that age. So runners at this age undergo rapid physical, mental, emotional growth and development challenges, of course, when they are at that age. The other thing that came out very clearly is that at this age, they require a lot of parental support as they undergo a psychosocial and emotional transformation, and Kenyans said it will not be proper to take them to boarding schools and far from their parents. Others said there is need for these runners at this age to acquire knowledge and skills, and at the same time foster social cohesion and appropriate values, which is enhanced by parental involvement and engagement. Finally, Mr. Speaker, it was said that in order for these runners to operate optimally, they required an environment that will be able to provide psycho-emotional development and support at the age that they are in. Mr. Speaker, the decision, therefore, of these junior secondary schools, and of course, having taken 6 years, ever since 2017, when we started grade 1, there is no reversing year that we can be able to go back and reconsider. We are just moving forward with a junior secondary school, and there is no way that we can be able to go back on this. The second set of questions, Honorable Speaker, is that a total of 7,662 million was utilized to build 9,721 classrooms in our secondary schools. These classrooms are currently being used, to reduce the ever-growing congestion in our secondary schools. This was informed by a task force that was formed around 2020, Mr. Speaker, which was given the responsibility and the mandate to look at enhancing access, relevancy, transition, equity, and quality for effective curriculum reforms, implementation which was chaired by Professor Fatuma Chege. And it found out that there was a deficit of classrooms in our secondary schools to the tune of 2,663 classrooms by then. As by then, the enrollment in our secondary schools as per December 2020 was 3,405,596 students. By December 2021, a year after, the enrollment in our secondary schools had increased to 3,523,428 learners. By December 2022, this enrollment had grown to a figure of 3,526,197 learners. Presently, the enrollment, Honorable Speaker, stands at 3,690,376. This therefore means that there has been an increase since 2020 of 287,780 runners. This, together with the pre-existing deficit, translates to a requirement of 9,028 additional classrooms. Consequently, Mr. Speaker, the 9,721 classrooms that were constructed are assisting to address the current deficit as well as the future demand for more classrooms. It is important to note that with the government's policy of 100% transition, the enrollment in our secondary schools, Mr. Speaker, increases by an average of 8.5% annually. More classrooms will therefore be required to meet the ever-growing demand. And I'm sure that honorable members from your respective constituencies, you are witnesses that there are no empty classrooms. Indeed, the classrooms that were built in all our secondary schools are in use. The other question from the Member of Parliament from Mandera South is that you are, Mr. Speaker, sir, the school feeding program started way back in the year 1979, when the government was giving school milk program, and this particular program then was being supported by the World Food Program. The World Food Program continued supporting us until 2017, when they stopped giving any funding to the Kenya government in this particular program. Currently, the Ministry of Education, through the National Council for Nomadic Education, NACONEC, undertook the program and has been giving food to particularly our 26 ASIRE counties. The program covers 2 million children from the ASIRE areas, which consists of 26 counties, Mr. Speaker, and 11 of the counties, of course, are Mandera, Tana River, Garissa, Wajir, Marsabit, Isiolo, Samburu, Baringo, West Pokot, Ramu, and Turkana, which NACONEC provides food to those schools, and there are other counties which are provided with cash transfer, which are 15 counties: Baringo, Elgeyo Marakwet, Embu, Nyeri, Kajiado, Narok, Kilifi, Kware, Machakos, Kitui, Makueni, Tharaka Nithi, Laikipia, parts of Nairobi, and Taita Taveta. A total of 336,281,000 has been spent under the program for the just concluded term. This financial year, a total of 1.96 billion shillings has been spent for the school feeding program because the remaining period until the expire of the financial year, we are well taken care of, and there will be food in each and every part of these counties. Honorable Speaker, for Mandera South constituency, which are 73 public primary schools with the current enrollment of 30,668 runners, 56 of these schools are in Mandera Central Erwak sub-county, while 17 of these schools are in the Kuturo sub-county. In the just concluded term, NACONEC gave food in kind distribution to all our public primary schools in Mandera South constituency, and the runners are provided 2 meals per day, one being porridge during break time, and also during lunch, we provide rice and beans during lunch time. In Kuturo sub-county, Honorable Speaker, the 17 schools which were covered under this program worth 1,435 bags of rice and 200 bags of beans were provided for the 17 schools. 92 20-liter jerrycans of oil was also provided, with 38 bags of salt, which were also supplied. In Mandera Central, Erwak sub-county, where we have 55 schools, a total of 5,741 bags of rice was supplied, and also we gave 794 bags of beans to that sub-county. 150 bags of salt was also supplied. Honorable Speaker, we also supplied cooking oil, and we did supply 1,120 cartons of ready-to-drink porridge to this sub-county. The total amount used for Mandera County, Honorable Speaker, was 203,893,240. And for this particular constituency, the two sub-counties, the total amount that was spent in school feeding program in this first term was 59,956,400. Water, Mr. Speaker, sir, as you are aware, the responsibility and function of water is a means of water, and also the county government. Of course, members, you know that you have given an allocation to the means of water. This particular quarter, I think over 200 million, which is for the purpose of drilling boreholes in schools. That money is managed by the means of water. The only thing that we can be able to do as a means of education is to make a recommendation to means of water to consider drilling a borehole in any given school. But in Mandera South, the public schools in Mandera, most of them are located in town centers where we share boreholes with the local communities. The total number of boreholes in Mandera South are 70 boreholes, 79 in Mandera Central Sub-County, and 23 in Koturo Sub-County. And of course, I have said that we are also partnering with the means of water, and where there is need.
Minister, try and paraphrase the answer.
Yes, thank you.
Because we want to be done with you in the next 30 minutes so that we allow your colleague who is waiting. And I have got many supplementaries queuing. So finish up that and go to...
Thank you. So that question, sir, we have the 70 boreholes, and as of now, they are the ones supplying and providing water to our primary and the secondary schools in the two sub-counties. And what we are doing to ensure that our students remain in school, and considering the nomadic lifestyle in this particular area, one, Honorable Speaker, is that we have provided food, and the food we provide to the primary school, the purpose of it is to make sure that we retain our children in school, and that has worked out very well. The second other thing we have done in this sub-county and the neighboring sub-counties plus the aside areas is that we have low-cost boarding schools. And the number of boarding schools we have in Mandera County, we have a total of 38, and in this particular constituency, which are taking a total of 12,611 pupils in all these primary school boarding schools. And in this particular constituency and the two sub-counties, we have 8 low-cost public boarding schools, which of course are catering for this, and having a total number of 1,973 runners. And of course, the county governments, particularly in Mandera, is also supporting us in education, because like this financial year, Honorable Speaker, the county government of Mandera has pumped in 350 million, which is also addressing this particular problem. The last one, Honorable Speaker, is that the last one is
the one by Honorable Mashua Waithaka.
The one
on
on
the
Cuba.
students in Cuba.
Yeah, thank you, Honorable Speaker. The Kenya government entered into an MOU with Cuba in the year 2004. And the agreement entered upon was that Cuba will be providing bursaries, scholarships, partial scholarships. They provide for tuition, they provide for accommodation, and they take 2 students per given year. And it has been happening since then. And the Kenya government initially used to give a bursary to each and every student until the year 2011. And since the year 2011, Honorable Speaker, as a government and as a country, we have not been able to give the stipend that we used to give, not only to our students who access these scholarship programs, but even those who access them in European Union countries and other countries. We don't give any stipend as such, so the parents, the households, have to meet the cost. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I will ask one supplementary question. And that, first and foremost, Honorable Speaker, I want to say that the response is largely satisfactory. But the supplementary question I want to ask, Honorable Speaker, relates to the shortage of staff, the lack of teachers, especially the understaffing, which is acute in areas like Busia County, particularly Teso North and Butula. The acute shortage, is it not likely to undermine the implementation? And what action or measures is the minister taking to address that, so that the implementation of the CBC and the junior secondary particularly can succeed? Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I only have also one supplementary question. Largely, I also am happy with the answer the minister has given. And I can confirm the schools in my constituency have received the food distributed by NACONEC. Given that NACONEC is doing a good job in terms of this food distribution, and given that the other major problem we have in the schools, especially in ASALs, Mandera South constituency being one of it, is the provision of water. I have indicated there are 64 schools in my constituency which do not have source of water and do not have even storage, even if you track water to those schools. Would the minister tell us whether it is possible to have a conversation within government, because he has told us the water supply is the function of the Ministry of Water, so that this water is also done through the ministry, and if possible, NACONEC is given an expanded function to include provision of water to schools as they provide food, like it is happening in other jurisdictions. For example, in Nigeria, the Nigeria Council for Nomadic Schools.
Honorable member, you are making a speech. Ask your question.
Thank you. My question is, would the minister liaise with his counterpart in the Ministry of Water and see how that service of water provision for schools can be consolidated under one institution, like, for example, NACONEC, so that as they provide food, they can also provide water? Thank you.
Thank you. Waithaka?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Cabinet Secretary said that in 2004, the Cuban government got into an agreement with the Kenyan government to provide bursary and other requirements for the students in Cuba. But according to my constituents who have sent or who have kids in Cuba, they are being forced to do harambes. And this has not been the agreement that was signed has not been in effect. So I would ask the Cabinet Secretary to please confirm whether this agreement is still is in effect and if it's being followed. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Mama Zamzam, Mombasa.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And my question goes to the Minister for Education. We recently had recruitment on TSC teachers. And unfortunately, Mombasa, we had teachers who were on probation for so long, some 2 years, some 1 year, but they never got to get this chance. I want to ask, which criteria did you use to recruit these teachers, and why was Mombasa left out? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Sabina Cheke, what's your point of order?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My point of order is on a question I'd asked the Minister on the payment of the junior secondary school teachers. Mr. Speaker, I didn't hear him respond to that question. I didn't hear him respond.
If you didn't answer, note that.
Yes, please.
Lisa Chelule.
Asante sana Bwana Spika kunipatia nafasi pia nielekeze swali langu kwa waziri wa elimu. Swali langu ni kwa wale wanafunzi ambayo wamefanya mitihani ya secondary. Sijui kama ana habari kwamba kila wakati watoto hawa wakienda shule kwenda kuchukua stakafadhi sao wanakatazwa kwa mambo ya fee balance ama kama hawajamaliza kulipa school fees. Asante Bwana Spika. Bwana Spika, tuko na shida kule Nakuru ya Njoro University. Bwana Spika, wacha tu niseme hii sababu imekuwa muda sana nipate hii nafasi. Tumeketi hapa na mheshimiwa ya Njoro na sisi wote kama watu ya Nakuru tunauliza ufufulizi wa Egerton University. Tuko na shida sana na watoto wetu wanapitia mashida mingi. Asante.
Nyakundi. Honorable Nyakundi, is that your other name? The last time I checked, you are called Charity Kadambi. I call out Nyakundi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity. First of all, let me commend the Cabinet Secretary for Education for the good job that he's doing. My question goes to the Cabinet Secretary. As members of Parliament, under CDF, we try to build classes to decongest schools. But what is the ministry doing to decongest schools? Like in my constituency, I have a school called Gesangora Primary, which in every class has 100 to 120 students. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Beatrice Elachi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question goes to the Minister, as I appreciate the work he's doing, to just tell us whether it is possible to inform us on how the ratios of kids are done through the national government, so that when we are also supplementing with either bursary or even just doing the buildings of the schools, we are able to know, so that we don't also misuse resources in double allocation, and maybe the ministry has already done.
Cameron.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to ask the Minister of Education to explain the reopening and the rebuilding status of Ngelecha, Rukus, Ramacha, Partaluk, Murata, and Lara Moru primary schools, which was directed by His Excellency the President last year, as well as rehabilitation of Mukutane, Kapindasum, Arapal, Kashela, Tuyotich, and Chevinyin, Embasso Secondary, due to the challenges that were undergoing, that was destroyed by the bandits.
Are you
Thank
sure
you.
he has gotten those names, the way you are reading? Can you write those names and hand over to him, to the minister? Naomi Wako, you have one question at a time. Hand over to him.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. I would want to ask the minister one brief question, as I also want to appreciate his effort and also his effort of visiting Marsabit in terms of education. Could the minister explain on the implementation of CBC in ASAL counties, considering the challenges of network, and most of our schools have, schools that are not even well built, and some of them are even studying under very hardship situation. So can he explain to us the measures that they are putting in place in order for CBC to be implemented, and considering the nomadic nature of our lifestyle? Thank you.
The member sitting in front of Naisula, what's your name? Honorable.
Thank you, Speaker. Honorable Lekumontare Jackson, MP Samburu East.
Samburu East.
Yeah, thank you, Honorable Speaker. I have a question. Could the minister tell us why the schools do not have textbooks? Some of the secondary schools do not have textbooks, although they are giving set books, but there are no course book until even they see the exam without textbooks. Thank you.
Martin Wanyonyi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, my question relates to a circular that was issued by SRC as far as teachers with disabilities are concerned, as far as their reading allowance and their reading allowance is concerned, Chair. Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, my question is, that particular circular is still in place, and TSC is not paying or implementing this particular circular, and yet this particular money or allowance is helping teachers with disability, especially those who are visually impaired, for their own mobility, and those who are physically disabled to be able to effectively perform their own functions. That is reading allowance and guide allowance, Honorable Speaker. Thank you.
Mwashako.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. My question goes to the CS Education. In 2019, this Parliament adopted a report of the Education Committee, then as a result of a petition that was done by the teachers of Taita Taveta County on hardship allowance. That report was adopted and approved by Parliament, but up to now, nothing has been done. So my question to the CS is he aware that Undanyi, Taveta, and parts of Mwatate that were approved by this parliament to be included as hardship areas are yet to receive their hardship allowances? And if yes, what is he doing about it? Because the 3 areas mentioned, Honorable Speaker, have a need, it's becoming very difficult to attract teachers, and at the same time, the teachers are extremely demotivated as the areas have extreme hardship condition more than the areas that are benefiting. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Faith Gitau.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. In Nyandarua County and in schools in Nyandarua, we have no enough teachers, both in primary and secondary schools. And this has really affected the performance of these schools. What is the ministry, or when is the ministry likely to deploy teachers in these schools? Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you. Difficult to tell. Honorable Mulyungi. You are now the leader on this side.
I'm the minority leader now, temporarily. Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, I've been sitting here suffering and wondering, where is mineral water in the chamber? Because I've gone there twice. Yes, yes, please. I'm suffering.
Yes. Sergeant, it's okay, you've made your point. Sergeant, can you avail water to Honorable Mulyungi and any other member who needs water? You have the member for KISII Rural. Since your colleague from KISII has taken time to ask for water instead of a question.
Yeah, you know, we come from dry areas, so I think the storage, the body has expired. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, Honorable Speaker. My question goes to the Cabinet Secretary, Minister of Education. Is the Cabinet Secretary aware of school infrastructural fund managed by the ministry? And if so, what is the criteria used to share the fund among schools across the country?
Thank
Lastly,
you. Only one question at a time. Munene? We have so much interest, members. Just ask your pointed question. Yes. Give the microphone to member for Chuka. You have it.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I like to ask the Cabinet Secretary for Education whether he is aware that Chuka University, a big university, public university with over 10,000 students, has stayed for over a year now without a Vice Chancellor and without council. It's a zero council, zero Vice Chancellor, and the university is almost going down. A big university with over 10,000 students, a public university. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Minister, I'll give one last one on this round to member for Fafi. Fafi. Yes. One quick question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mine is about provision of water to schools in dry areas. I come from a very dry area, one of the worst hit drought areas in Kenya. As you know, CDF does not cater for water supply. Most of the counties which are obliged to give water to those areas are also dead. What has the ministry has in terms of provision for water to schools in dry areas? Are there water boozers, or what is the mitigation measures in place? That's mine. Thank you, sir.
Minister, those are about 12. Can you answer those?
Yeah, thank you.
We'll do another round of 5 or 6 before we call the next minister.
Yeah, thank you, Honorable Speaker. The first question is about understaffing and teachers in junior secondary. I want to reassure the honorable members that we are aware of this fact that, of course, we have not reached a stage where we can be able to say we are 100% perfect as far as staffing is concerned, but each and every time, Honorable Speaker, this is one thing that we have had meetings. Even I normally have virtual meetings with sub-county directors of education, county directors of education, such that we are able to get reports as to the shortage in specific schools. And as we progress, we are addressing this particular program such that when funds are out, we post schools to these particular schools. And also to assure the members that for the last almost 4 or 5 years, there have been in-service training courses for teachers, particularly on pedagogy, such that to prepare them to teach CPC. We have many qualified teachers, including graduates who are in primary schools, and those are the teachers we are using now in teaching the junior secondary school schools in quite a number of schools in the country. So the program is not as serious as we would like to put it, because in a number of our schools, actually, because I've gone to almost each and every region in this country, members, you are aware, I've been to schools in the Coast Province, I've been to schools in Northeastern Province, I've been region rather North Province, I've been in Eastern Region, Western, Nyanza, Central, Coast, and almost each and every part of the region, and really trying to assess and to see how we can be able to mitigate on this. So as much as we might not be able to be 100% perfect in this, I assure you that it's a problem that as a government we are looking into as we move forward. Water, as I said, is a function and a responsibility of the Ministry of Education, of water. In education, even NACONEC, we don't have the technical expertise and we don't have the capacity that we can be able to undertake and do boreholes like what the Ministry of Water has. But I ask the members that once you identify that there is need in a given area, and you also pass it to us, because we have a one government approach. I can't be able to recommend the same to my colleague in Ministry of Water, and I'm sure with the available funds which Parliament has been able to allocate to that ministry, something will be done, because you have allocated the money for that particular purpose. Mheshimiwa Honorable Sabina Chege, sorry I had not answered that question, and I want to apologize to our teachers, the ones that we had not been able to pay, because of course we were capturing information, because after posting them, we must get information from the principals that they have reported and the specific date that they report, so that we are able to prepare payment. And as of today, when I discussed with the CEO Teacher Service Commission, it was confirmed to me that almost 50% of our teachers, newly employed, have been paid. The other 50%, we are getting information from the field, and I assure you, funds for paying our teachers are available, and we will be able to pay expeditiously. So, field parents, and where you get schools insisting that payment must be done before certificates are issued, this is one other area that the government has been able to issue a directive, and actually not the government, Parliament itself. If you look at Kenya National Examination Council, Section 5, it is clearly states that no child, no student should be denied his certificate. So where you get those cases, of course I know sometimes there might be many. You can be able to take them to our county directors of education, even to my office. I was even handling 2 such cases last week, and I know my county directors, including the regional county directors, because they are under firm instruction in this, they are also handling this. And actually, even when I met the principals of national schools last week in Mombasa, this was one such agenda that we discussed, and I did make it clear that they have to obey government directive, and particularly this particular one. Infrastructure funds, members, you are aware that the amount you have given us, particularly this financial year, in the primary section is 140 million for all our primary schools, and you can imagine the number of primary schools we have in the country are, I think, 24,000. So we said, as much as possible, the criteria we follow is that we must consider equity and a little bit of affirmative action, because there are areas in this country that you go to, I don't know what happened when others have done so well in CDF in putting up classrooms. There are areas where there are no classrooms. There is a school that we are giving money, Honorable Speaker, where a member came, I think it is somewhere in KISII, I can't remember the name of the school, where it is actually in a pathetic situation. So we consider equity and make sure that each and every constituency gets an equal share of this money, even if it is 1 million each. So that's what we do, and going forward, we will be involving you more and more in allocating this money, but you can see that it is a really small amount, and even the one which is given for secondary, I think also 800, about 900 million for secondary schools. So in total, 900 plus 140 million, you can see the amount is so small considering the number of primary and secondary schools that we have in the entire country. Honorable Speaker, the honorable member from Baringo South, I'm aware about that problem. Indeed, it was a problem affecting Baringo and Turkana. I had an opportunity myself of going to Turkana. We even had a public rally with a few members of parliament from Turkana, and the amount that you allocated us, 100 million, we have already given to Turkana. We are yet to give Baringo. That is in my desk. So rest assured that we are going to repute those schools which were destroyed by bandits in Baringo, because the 100 million we have given, we have also engaged the military. Honorable Speaker, it is the one which is assisting the ministry in putting up the 15 schools that were destroyed by bandits in Turkana, and we are going to do the same in Baringo. Marsabit, thank you, honorable member. You know, I attended the Education Day in Marsabit. I'm aware of the unique kind of programs in that county and also the neighboring counties. So there are cases that we'll be able to consider on their own merit, Marsabit and the neighboring counties being one of them, because there are others that require me to partner with the Ministry of ICT and other government agencies in order, in an affirmative action, to be able to assist those areas. Members, you know the criteria of giving textbooks to schools, and this is one other area we said we must register each and every one of our schools, may it be primary or secondary, because once they are captured in NEMIS, then they qualify to get the textbooks. The amount of textbooks, the number of textbooks we have issued to our junior secondary schools in the 12 areas, running areas, which I think today as we are here, a statement will be issued by His Excellency the President in conformity with the recommendations of the Presidential Working Party to reduce the number of running areas from 12 to 9. So we have issued 18 million textbooks, taking an amount of 3.3 billion money which was allocated by this House. And I'm sure that, honorable member, in case we have not issued to your constituency or any particular school, please come to my office so that we can be able to specifically look at that particular issue. For secondary schools, the criteria is that we issue textbooks, and according to our estimation, a textbook is supposed to last for 4 years. So it is only after 4 years that again there is another allocation of the same textbooks to a given school. Honorable Speaker, concerning SRC and the TSC, particularly concerning the disabled, I request the honorable member to come to the office so that I can be able to call the Teacher Service Commission, and we will be able to deal with that specific problem that he was able to raise. Hardship areas, Honorable Speaker, I've gone to many parts again. I went to an area known as Ndarawa in Nyandarua, a neighboring constituency. Teachers are getting hardship, the same climatic conditions, the same geographical conditions, but one side is getting and the other is not. And I think we got that request. I went to Nyatike in Migori County, the same request. Taveta, I assure you that we are also putting together all those areas that require to be considered for hardship, and then we'll be able to follow the normal process of making them to access hardship allowance. Teachers to Nyandarua, as in any other parts of the country, I think progressively we will be addressing this particular problem so that we make sure that teachers are available in our schools as we move on. Your Honorable Speaker, Egerton University, and I'm happy to report this House, Honorable Speaker, that today, as we are here, one such program that we have encountered as a country is on higher education, because the criteria that we used to use was known as DUC, differentiated unit cost, where the government of Kenya was supposed to support each and every program at a cost of 80%. But for the last 5 years, members, you are aware that the amount you allocate to our universities has not been able to cater for the 80% as required and as given in that particular policy. So like this financial year, the total amount that we have been able to give to our public universities is 48.1%. So today, as we are here, His Excellency the President of the Republic of Kenya, again, considering the recommendations that we have been able to get from the Presidential Working Party, is unveiling a new funding model to our public universities, which will guarantee sustainability of our universities, which will also give accessibility to our universities, as well as ensuring that the children of those who come from the poor families are actually well taken care of, considering the kind of funding model that we have come up with, which I think, as we are here, is being announced by His Excellency the President of the Republic of Kenya. Egerton University, your Honorable Speaker, gets a capitation of 185,000 Kenya shillings per month. The salaries are on take 221 million each and every month. So you can see now each and every month they are working on a deficit. Of course, apart from working on the funding model, we are also working on matters governance, on matters management, because again, the other problem ailing our universities also deals with matters governance, matters to do with management, which we are trying to do our best in ensuring that particularly the university councils we appoint this time around, we undertake a qualitative process so that we are able to get men and women who can be able to manage our universities in a better way. So Egerton University, we hope that with the new funding model that is being unveiled today by His Excellency the President, we should be able to come out of the kind of problem we have, not only in Egerton, but even in our universities. Even the act 2012 Act, Honorable Speaker, where there was a loophole. I think as a ministry, we have made a recommendation to this House, because you can also, you also know that since 2017, part of the funding also goes to our private universities, and we have sent some kind of amendment which make as a house. Chuka University, I want to assure the member that we are appointing the council, Honorable Speaker. We have Public Service Commission has already appointed a Vice Chancellor. So once we have a council in place which is coming up any time, the Vice Chancellor for that university is also in 1-2 weeks' time. You will be able to know your Chancellor, Vice Chancellor. You will also be able to know your council members. Finally, Honorable Speaker, good news for this country is that we are starting a national open university. All the process have been undertaken by a Commission for University Education, and as given in Section 24 of the University Act, because that is given as a specialized university, we would request the honorable members to give approval, because when you look at the neighboring countries, Tanzania, South Africa, almost each and every country has an open university which has quite a lot of advantages concerning the cost and access to education. So we will request that you also approve that. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, honorable members. Thank you, Minister. Honorable members, I'm inclined to stop here on this education. I know you have many questions. What I will do is, you are going on recess tomorrow. I'll direct the clerk to invite this minister the first sitting after recess, so that he can be asked more questions. I know many members have come to me here. Ngeleche, you have come, Raso, Wambilianga, all of you. And each one of you has a legitimate right to ask a question. Allow me to make this following short communication to acknowledge students from Kenyatta University School of Law seated at the Speaker's Gallery. They are Kimani Njenga, Lauren Atieno, Mother Jepkemei, Florence Atieno, Joseph Baraza, Maureen Kamuhia, Pauline Dirangu, and Emily Ogonyo. The delegation has visited Parliament as part of its participation in the ongoing 4th International Parliamentary Conference on the Freedom of Religion and Belief, which is taking place at the Nairobi Serena Hotel, where the National Assembly is being represented by the Deputy Speaker, Honorable Gladys Bose-Sholei, MGH MP, and Honorable Beatrice Elachi MP. On my behalf and on your behalf as a House, I wish to welcome the delegation and wish them a fruitful undertaking. Thank you. You may take your seat. Honorable members, a further communication before we call in the next minister. Over the past few years, the Parliamentary Service Commission has endeavored to provide a favorable working environment for members of Parliament, including availing to them professional teams of staff. Coupled with this, members are able to engage other support staff, including personal assistants. In this regard, honorable members, in light of the fact that the support staff engaged by members ought to be conversant with the procedures and operations of the National Assembly, the Office of the Clerk has organized a 2-day induction workshop for personal assistance of all members of the National Assembly. The workshop, under the theme Becoming an Effective Parliamentary Assistant, is scheduled to take place in 2 days formats, composed of 3 groups, one from 8th to 11th, the second from 11th to 14th, and the third from 14th to 17th of May 2023, at a venue to be communicated by the clerk's office in due course. The key objective of the workshop is to offer an opportunity for the personal assistants to be appraised of the workings of the National Assembly, including their day-to-day interactions with various directorates and departments. Honorable members are therefore called upon to nominate their personal assistants to attend the induction workshop by submitting the name of one personal assistant by filling a form or a nomination register at the main reception of the main Parliament buildings by Friday, 5th May 2023. Honorable members, additional information regarding the workshop will be communicated through the Bunge bulk SMS system. Thank you. Honorable Machogu, you can see very clearly that your ministry attracts tremendous attention and interest from members of the House. Literally, each and every member here has wished to ask a question. We are only limited by time because we have your colleague from Energy waiting. To members who have not gotten the opportunity, the chair says sorry to you, but we will summon the Honorable Machogu to appear before this House the first Wednesday after recess. We resume on the 6th, which is Tuesday, so I direct that the Honorable Machogu comes back on the 7th, which is not too far away, honorable members, and I'll ask the clerk to avail me the list of all of you who have asked questions today so that I put you in the cooler to give room for those who have had no opportunity to ask questions on that particular day, so that we give everybody a fair chance, isn't it? Lastly, Honorable Machogu, thank you for honoring the invite. Thank you for answering questions clearly, but you have much more to ask, to answer when you come next time. You can see members have got questions from every single part of the country, some related, some unrelated, but all towards the education of our children, the welfare of our teachers, the facilities available in schools, and the equity of distributing those facilities. I thank you. You are released with your team, and you may now bring in the Minister for Energy. Order, honorable members. We now have the Minister for Energy and Petroleum, the Honorable Davis Chirchir. You are welcome to Parliament. The first question will be from the member for Malindi, Amina Muyanzi, MP. I have not seen her the whole afternoon. Did she also walk out? Honorable Amina Muyanzi. Honorable Amina Muyanzi, question dropped. You can only ask on her behalf, Honorable Shakil, if there is a written request from the member herself to the Speaker. Question dropped. Next, question 095. Member for Mandera South, Abdul Haro.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable Haro, can I request you to sit back? You have had more than your fair share this afternoon. Let me give the next, I'll come back to you a little later, so that in case we run out of time, you'll have had several bites at the cherry this afternoon. The Honourable Member for Kibwezi. Minister, just note the question from Member for Mandera South. It will come slightly later. Honourable Member for Kibwezi East, Jess Kambalu. Honourable Jess Kambalu, she's just been here. Sergeant, if she's at the back, we'll give her an let me ask the Honourable Member for Laisamis. Honourable Lekuton, I've not seen him today. Is he in the chamber? Oh, Joseph, you may ask your question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to ask question 098 of 2023. Could the Cabinet Secretary, one, indicate when Loyangalani, Kargi, Mount Kulal, and South Hall towns will benefit from the electricity connectivity, considering that they are not yet connected to national grid? Roman number 2, Mr. Speaker, sir, the Minister to explain what plans the Ministry has to ensure that the said towns are connected to sufficient and uninterrupted power supply, considering that the said towns are rapidly growing with many educational and health facilities among other public utilities that require power supply. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honourable Lekuton. Minister, just hold. Because of pressure of time, I'll allow a second question. Before you may sit and take your notes. Honourable Member, question 135 by Robert Mbui, who is doesn't seem to be here, but he had asked me to take the question off the order paper. He alleges that the clerks mutilated his question. This is not the way he wanted it framed. So, clerk, you'll have to check on that question and see how to reframe it. Honourable Jess Kambai, move quickly to your seat and ask your question. Honourable Jess Kambalu, question 097 of 2023. It's not working. Take the next one.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I ask question number 097 of 2023 to the Cabinet Secretary of Energy. Honourable Speaker, I had 3 questions of the same. Number 1 is for the Cabinet Secretary to provide details of the number of public primary and secondary schools and other public institutions in Kibwezi's constituency that are not connected to electricity, and the steps being undertaken to ensure that said institutions are connected with electricity. Speaker, question 2 of the same was to outline measures that the Ministry has put in place to either service or replace the dysfunctional and obsolete solar PV systems that are installed to provide uninterrupted power supply to various public institutions in the country, and particularly in Kibwezi's constituency, especially primary schools where power is critical to supporting the digital learning program. Yes, Mr. Speaker, those were my 2 questions.
That is your question. Minister, let me also take the Honourable Member for Mandera South now. Honourable Harrow.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I rise to ask question 095 of 2023. Could the Cabinet Secretary, 1, provide a status report regarding electricity connectivity to homes and public institutions in Mandera South constituency, and explain the reasons why the constituency is the only one out of the 6 constituencies in Mandera County that missed out on the second and third phases of the last mile connectivity project? 2, explain why the electrification program in Wargadud area and in Kutulo, Kutayu, Boji, and Lehele locations in Mandera South constituency has stalled, and indicate any plans for completing the said project, including replacement of faulty poles on the power line to Wargadud. 3, state when transformers in the following areas will be supplied: Bula Power, Hobo Dabasiti, Bula Kolati, El Safara Mosque, Bula Moyale, Bula Nguvu, Alutei BA, Alutei BB, Bula Kisima, Elwak Secondary School and its environs, Iresuki, Bula Wagberi, Elwak Post Office and its environs, El Hache and its environs, Elwak Girls Primary and its environs, Bula Gesrebki, Bula Watiti, Bula Duse, El Ram A, Abeyumur, El Ram B, Chachabole, Ireskinto, Elele, Aloboji, Kobadadi, Tutes, and Burmayo. Thank you.
Minister, those are 3 questions, 097, 098, and 095. So you may proceed to answer them in the order they were asked. Thereafter, we'll take supplementary questions. Yes, Honorable Nominated Member. Why is your hand up? Give the Honorable Member the mic.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, I recall.
Yes, you jumped the question. Thank you.
The reason I jumped the question is you volunteered to ask it, but the Honorable Questioner, Honorable Rueda Obo, had written to Mr. Speaker asking for the member for Malindi to ask the question. The member for Malindi is not here. There's no transferred responsibility to you in writing. What I will do is not to drop the question, but to spare it for the next time. So you may inform the Honorable Obo. If she instructed you, next time tell her to write to the Speaker. Go ahead, Minister.
Honorable Speaker and honorable members of the National Assembly, allow me to say good afternoon. Good evening.
Yes.
It's a pleasure, Speaker, to be here to interact with our honorable members and really put the face to what we are doing so that we can continue to work together in powering our economy. I will continue to make remarks as we go forward, but let me start with a question 098 from Honorable Joseph Lekuton, the MP for Laisamis. Mheshimiwa Loyangalani challenge as by your question where you asked to indicate the when Loyangalani, Kargi, Mount Kulal, and South Hor towns will benefit from electricity connectivity, considering that they are not yet connected to the national grid. Mheshimiwa Loyangalani, we are working with the Rural Electrification and Renewable Energy Corporation, and who are currently implementing the electrification in Loyangalani town at a cost of 141 million Kenya shillings. The contractor is currently carrying out pole erections on the project and will be completed within 6 months, that is by October 2023. With respect to Kagi area, it is planned for implementation under the World Bank funded Kenya Off-Grid Solar Mini-Grid program. The bidding documents have been submitted to the World Bank for approval to facilitate advertisement of the tenders. The Kenya Off-Grid Solar project or program is projected for completion by December. With respect to Mount Kulal area will be served under the Qatar, a proposed site under the World Bank COSAP Mini Grid 2. The bidding documents have been submitted to the World Bank equally alongside those of KISII, and they will also be completed in December 2024. With respect to South Horde Town, the South Horde Town is far off the grid. It is proposed that a standalone power generating station be installed to serve the town, subject to availability of funds or budget for that matter. And Mheshimiwa Lukuton, I want to confirm that we'll push to provide budget for this power generator so that we can serve South Horde Town within the next financial planning. With respect to your second question, where you've asked us to explain the plans, the ministry has to ensure that the said towns are connected to sufficient and uninterruptible power supply, considering that the said towns are rapidly growing with many education and health facilities, among other public utilities that require power supply. I want to confirm that the ongoing electrification projects of Loyangalani town are being fast-tracked to ensure all the businesses and households are connected to electricity within the next 6 months. The town of Kagi and Mount Kulal will be electrified under the World Bank COSAP mini-grid program, and South Horde Town, like I've said, will have a standalone generator that we will seek to provide under the budget, the next round of planning, financial planning, and we should be able to sort out South Horde Town. Let me also add by saying Loyangalani is a very important area, and it is a landmark where some 310 megawatts of solar power, wind power is generated, the biggest single plant in Africa. Lekuton, during my vetting, Mheshimiwa Raso Dido, the MP for Saku, was wondering why we are generating so much power and bringing it all to the load center in Nairobi. And I want to confirm that we've got funding to build a line to Marsabit, come down to Isiolo, and that will start giving us a grid that we can therefore reticulate and provide power on the grid within that region. Thank you, Speaker, for that question number 98. Number 97, let me quickly get to 97.
About Kibwezi.
Mheshimiwa Jessica Mbalu, Kibwezi East. The Rural Electrification and Renewable Energy Corporation, REREC, which really deals with the last mile reticulation, has electrified various facilities, primary schools, and transformer maximization programs or projects in Kibwezi East constituency. The status of electrification showing the completed projects, ongoing projects, and those awaiting funding is summarized in an Annex 2, which I did provide in my response to the House, Honorable Speaker. Rural Electrification Corporation projects to complete the ongoing projects by end of June 2023, as shown in that Annex 2. I want to confirm that as per our records, there are 141 primary schools in Kibwezi East, unless we have recently had new ones. And out of these 141, 95 primary schools are on the grid according to our records, and 38 are on solar PV. 10 schools, 8 primary schools and 2 secondary schools are not yet connected, but are being designed for consideration subject to budget availability. And a total of 38 primary schools that are installed with solar photovoltaic systems as per the table below, which is appended to my response, Speaker. Out of these, 14 have been maintained and in good working order. We have 24 being the balance which are awaiting maintenance. The maintenance program in the constituency is being prioritized based on the availability of budget. And I want to confirm, Mheshimiwa Jessica, that we are working with my team in REREC to ensure that we do provide budgetary allocation to maintenance, so that I do appreciate that most of the questions from the House will be looking at the life of the solar photovoltaic have come to the end of life, and we really need to work hard to maintain. So we'll be providing budget in our planning cycle so that we have a consistent maintenance of those solar powered schools, so that they do not go out of power. Let me also confirm that in Kibwezi East, like I've mentioned, some of the projects in design and survey, and we will be completing, and I want to confirm, and I'll be making a general statement, Mr. Speaker, because it cuts across most of the members of the House, that really REREC has done a great job. We do appreciate the fact that the members of this honorable House have been very supportive, to the extent of putting a matching fund to support REREC in terms of accelerating the development of the last mile program. What we'll be doing, Speaker, in due course, would be working with the members of this House to confirm the outstanding public facilities in your constituencies. I have had a meeting with the Energy Committee, chaired by Honorable Victor Munyaka, and what we are doing is working on schedules of all public institutions for every member of parliament, from the first constituency to the last constituency, to basically audit those institutions that to date have not been reticulated with power, and so that we work together to provide adequate budget, and so that in this financial year and the next financial year we should be able to finish all our public institutions in terms of providing power. Thereafter, we should be able to do the maximization program and ensure that our citizenry who are within the schools are within power.
What is the point of order, honourable member? Can you give the honourable member the mic? Give him the mic. You can't press him. There you are, member.
Mr. Speaker, the Cabinet Secretary has referred to the Chair of the Energy Committee as Honorable Victor Munyaka. Is he sure, are we sure that he is answering the right question?
Thank you, Mheshimiwa Hilary. I really meant Vincent Mushoka. He's in the House. I've seen him. Chairman, sorry for referring to you as Munyaka. So yes, we're working with the chairman, Vincent Mushoka Kawaya, Mheshimiwa. we will be providing schedules of all the public institutions in all the constituencies through the clerk of the House to the honorable members, to help us to confirm those public institutions that have not been reticulated with power. And we will then work together to provide adequate budget, so that in the next cycle of 2 years, we should be able to finish all the powering all our schools and all our health centers to support our populations where we live. The other question from Jessica is to outline the measures that the ministry has put in place to either service or replace dysfunctional and obsolete solar PV systems that were installed to provide uninterrupted power supply to various public institutions in the country, and particularly in Kibwezi East constituency, especially primary schools where power is critical for supporting digital learning. Honorable Speaker, REREC has a total of 4,870 primary schools installed with solar PV systems. This project has been in existence for 8 years now, since the first solar PV systems were installed, and hence most of the systems are due for maintenance. Cumulatively to date, a total of 1,787 solar PV systems have been maintained, and another 156 are currently being maintained. The corporation, REREC, is carrying out continuous scoping of primary schools for maintenance subject to budget availability. And like I said, we'll work together to ensure that we do have adequate budget to reticulate where there is now grid, but more importantly, I don't think it is enough to just tell this honorable House subject to budget availability. The government is adopting the following strategies to replace dysfunctional, obsolete solar PV systems. That include the primary school solar maintenance replacement program that will be continuous and ongoing based on availability of budget. And again, like I've said, we'll work together to make sure that there is budget for maintenance. I want to confirm, Honorable Speaker, that we recently had a number of staff recruited in REREC, I think late last year, and we have got adequate staff to cover most of those regions to make sure that when we run these maintenance programs, we are able to ensure that we have everything in good working order. REREC is also continuously developing in-house technical capacity through various training to carry out repairs on maintenance of the solar PVs in public institutions by our team of engineers and technicians. And in the endeavor to attain universal access to electricity, the government has a medium-term strategy to extend the grid to schools, install on solar PV system, and eventually electrify all households within the radius of 600 meters through what we all know within the maximization program. Continuous sensitization advocacy of the school management to replace failed, burnt, or lights enhance security to discourage vandalism of the solar PVs. There are also sometimes targets for theft, and we really need to secure them. So we'll work on those programs together to ensure that our solar PVs, Jessica, Mheshimiwa, are in good working order in Kibwezi East. Thank you. Let me then look at...
Yes, Honorable Jessica. You'll have an opportunity to ask a supplementary after this.
Supplementary, because I have a copy of the answer from the CS. Honorable Speaker, I just wanted to appreciate, before he moves to my other colleague on the question, I want to appreciate the CS for the answers he's given to my question.
Jessica, I will not
yes.
allow you that shortcut. Take your seat. Take your seat. I'll give you a supplementary. You can appreciate the minister when I give you the supplementary. Go on to the next. I had given him 3 questions, Jessica. I wanted him to answer all of them, which he has done. Lekutons, yours, and Harrow's. When he finishes, I'll come back to you.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Question 95 by the Member of Parliament for Mandera South constituency, Honorable Abdul Harrow. Could the Cabinet Secretary provide a status report regarding electricity connectivity to homes and public institutions in Mandera South constituency and explain the reasons why the constituency is the only one out of 6 constituencies in Mandera that missed out on the 2nd and 3rd phase of the last mile connectivity project? Let me also refer as honorable members to REREC, the Rural Electrification and Renewable Energy Corporation, and say that REREC has implemented 5 transformer maximization projects in Mandera South constituency, worth Kenya shillings 39.98 million. Another 5 public facilities projects have also been financed to a tune of Kenya shillings 154.35 million over the same period. In addition, a total of 61 public primary schools have been electrified, with 6 projects on grid and 55 projects installed with solar photovoltaic system. The detailed status and names of the various projects implemented or being implemented is attached in Annex 1 in my response. The list indicates the areas in Mandera South that have been connected to electricity in Mandera South under GOK-funded last mile projects and our partner Africa Development Bank Phase 1 last mile project. And I don't know whether I should really go through the schedule, but the schedule, Honorable Speaker, is appended. Last mile, New Bola Slaughter, 88, last mile, Hamdadu, Mandera North, 124, and so on and so forth. I've got the full list there of the areas requested by Mheshimiwa on what we are doing. The constituency did not benefit from last mile phase 2 and 3 since it was earmarked for implementation of Kenya Off-Grid Solar Access Project, which has been completed. Outlined below are the projects to be implemented under that COSAP as mentioned. Ilele, Ekolicha, El Ram, Finicharo, Nyatalio, Kalangelesa, and so on and so forth. And I want to confirm that we have gone to tendering Mheshimiwa for connection of the following public facilities and has already commenced. Under COSAP public facilities in Mandera South, we have Bomayo Dispensary, Chachabole Dispensary, Garcesala Dispensary, Alango Dispensary, El Kolicha Dispensary, El Ram, Falama, all dispensaries, Wal Sadamu, and El Argasu Mixed Day Secondary School. On the other question regarding Wargadu, where Mheshimiwa, you asked us to explain why electrification in Wargadu area in Katulo, Katuyu, Boji, and Lehele location in Mandera South constituency have stalled, and you've asked us to indicate plans for completing the said projects, including replacement of faulty poles on the power line in Wargadud. The repair of the Wargadud line has been approved and contractor identified to carry out the works, which involves replacement of the rotten poles, vandalized wooden poles with replacement with concrete poles, and wiring of 10 classrooms. These works will be completed, Mheshimiwa, within 6 months by October 2023. In Kotulo, the area is earmarked for connection under the World Bank Kenya Off-Grid Solar Program, mini-grid. The bidding documents have also been submitted to the World Bank for approval to facilitate advertisement for pre-qualification of the contractors. With respect to Kutayu, Bochi, Lehele Market, the medium voltage line, which we constructed on 33 kV rating, during its commissioning, it became overloaded or capacitative, and the receiving end voltage was higher than usual, resulting in the need to downgrade some 14 kilometers medium voltage power line from 33 to 11 kVA. The project has been awarded to a contractor and will be completed within 6 months. With respect to the transformer, where you have asked us to state when the transformer in the following areas will be supplied: Bula Power, Kubo, Dabasiti, Bula, Kwaloti, El Safara Mosque, Bula Moyale, Bula Nguvu, Alutayebi, A and B, Bula Warberi, Elwak Post Office and in its environ, El Hache and its environ, Elwak Girls Primary School and its environ, Bula Gesrebki, Bula Wateti, Bula Tuse, Elram, Albay, Umar, Gabole, REREC has identified 28 projects in Mandera South constituency, which will be implemented once the budget is available. And I want to keep honorable members saying we'll work together to make sure that because of the popularity of this project to power our economy, power our lives, power our people, homes, we will work together to make sure that we get the budget. The projects inquired and their status are summarized in the table below, and I've shown the projects that the design has been completed and we are waiting for budget availability. We should be able to finish Bula Power. With respect to projects planned for survey, design, and make budget availability, I've shown from item number 2, Mheshimiwa, to the last one, Elwak Post Office and its environs, all the way down to Bamoyo. I think, Honorable Speaker, those are the 3 questions that I have done my best to basically cover. I've got the written responses with the details, and like I said, we'll work together to make sure that where budget is not available, we work to ensure that we can finish this project that started seriously in 2013 at 2,300,000 connections, and today we are at about 8.5 million. Thank you, Mheshimiwa.
Thank you, Cabinet Secretary. We'll now take Cabinet Secretary supplementary questions. We have the Member of Parliament for Bura as the first supplementary question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Bura town, which is the headquarters of my constituency, has been experiencing power outages for the longest time. The situation is worsening. So my question is, this problem has been brought about by a line from Shikadabu going all the way to Garissa County and coming back to Bura. My question is, could the Cabinet Secretary state plans by the ministry to undertake connecting direct line from an area within my constituency called Shikadabu to Bura town? Because we believe the longevity of the line is what is causing the problem. 2, could the Cabinet Secretary also ensure plans by the ministry to create a substation within Bura town to solve the problem of power outages? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Honorable Jesse Kambalu.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd reason just to have my comments on the response because I have the written response from the Cabinet Secretary, and this being one of the 3 questions that we had asked as members of the Parliament. Mr. Speaker, let me start by saying I really appreciate the response by the Cabinet Secretary, as I congratulate him. Mr. Speaker, it is important for us to look at the response from the Cabinet Secretaries, especially to the questions they came prepared to answer. I want to appreciate and say, Mr. Speaker, the Cabinet Secretary has alluded and said that we will be meeting or you'll be calling upon every member of Parliament as we do the budgeting, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, why I say so is because out of the response is annexed, and I think it is good for the record, some of the survey being planned in my response are not in my constituency. Like an area, we're talking about Yinzao area, Ngiwa, Matidi, Mbulani village that are not in Kibwezi's constituency. Having served that constituency for 10 years, I have not heard of such village. So it is important that Cabinet Secretary has said is talking to us and dealing with every other member, and especially the budgetary estimate being planned in other areas. So, Mr. Cabinet Secretary, I will be visiting your office just to ensure that we can put the document together to ensure the areas that are being covered here in my constituency so that my budget is not being eaten on. Thank you.
Honorable Jessica Mbalu, that was a very long statement. I would request members asking supplementary questions, especially members whose questions have been responded to be a bit more brief. So we have Honorable Lekuton. Members also remember our standing orders. The time within which the Cabinet Secretary should be in the House is limited, and it is nearly done. So Honorable Lekuton, just brief if you have a follow-up question. If you don't, appreciate the Cabinet Secretary, and we move to the next.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I do have a follow-up question, and I'd like to thank the Honorable CS for his appointment and also for being very brief and articulate to the questions that we've asked, and I thank him very much for that. Mr. Speaker, I'd just like to finish up with the minister to ask him that Mount Kulal, which is supposed to get part of the solar program, is not very conducive to they don't get a lot of sun there. It's a mountain with a lot of forest. So, Mr. Speaker, I was asking the minister to reconsider and put a hybrid solar together with generator to that post in Mount Kulal, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Thank you. Cabinet Secretary, I would request you and your team take note so that we take as many questions as possible. The Honorable Abraham Kirwa, the Member of Parliament for Mosop.
Follow-up.
I need a mic. Okay, let me use this one. Thank you again, Mr. Speaker. And I want to thank the CS for the opportunity to come to the House. My question, Mr. Speaker, is, and to the CS, is that my connectivity in Mosop is below 28%. Mr. CS, there are so many, 48 schemes that had already been designed and already total cost estimates had already been issued. But I've tried, or we've tried as a constituency, Mr. CS, to reach out to the ministry to see when you will be able to fund these 48 schemes to allow us at least to move from 28% to at least maybe 50, 60, 70%. Mosop is one of the darkest constituencies in the whole country. So I wanted to know from the CS when and what are the plans to actually fund some of these 48 projects, schemes that has been already submitted to the ministry, and what plans does the ministry have to make Mosop connectivity go higher? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Abdularo.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I must say I am satisfied with the answers given by the
Honorable members.
Cabinet Secretary.
There is a lot of commotion here. I don't know the interest with the energy sector, or is it the interest with the Cabinet Secretary? I can assure you that under the standing orders, I'm going to allow 3 more questions, which the Cabinet Secretary will respond to, and then we'll go to the next order. You know what your own standing orders, say. Proceed, Honorable.
The Cabinet Secretary has given, but the Honorable Cabinet Secretary, I have one question as a follow-up question to my question. But before I ask that question, I must say, as we speak, the only area that had remained with electricity in my constituency, that is the Elwak town, has been under blackout for the last 2 weeks because of a faulty generator, which has taken more than 2 weeks to repair. The other 2 areas for Kutulo and the other area for Wargadud, you have already talked about it, and you've said the repair works will be complete by October. That repair work has also been on progress for the last 1 year. It has taken too long, and those 2 areas have been in darkness. Now the third area, Elwak, is in complete darkness. My follow-up question is, you have indicated in your report that the constituency did not benefit from last mile phase 2 and 3 since it was earmarked for the implementation of Kenya Off-Grid Solar Access Project, KOSAP, which has been completed. the Honorable Cabinet Secretary, I would like to ask what criteria was used to select Mandera South only for this COSAP and leave it out from the last mile 2 and 3 and not the other 5 constituencies. Thank you.
Thank you. Give the mic to Honorable Ali Abdil Saraf Khalif to ask his question. Is it that the electronic system of Parliament is not working, or what is happening?
Thank you.
Parliament has a way of dealing with all the issues, don't worry.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable CS, fuel subsidy was introduced by last government to caution the public against high fuel prices. This has caused an accumulation of close to 50 billion to oil marketing companies. As a result, we have small and indigenous oil marketing companies that have closed shop because of this unnecessary and unplanned subsidy. Employees are being rendered jobless, and assets are being auctioned due to this issue. My question is, when is the government paying this money to the oil marketing companies? Thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable Owen Baya. Is that the last question, members?
Yes. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Okay. Honorable CS, 2 questions.
CS, I would request you take notes. I think there is a way in which we need the CS energy in the house for a whole day. and I can't imagine the traffic therefore in your offices also. So CS, try taking as many as possible, because I want the CS to respond once and we go to the next order paper. Honorable Wenbaya.
Thank you. First question, CS. Honorable Speaker, the issue of power and water, that for us to generate water for pumping, we need power. The cost of power is very exorbitant, so it makes water very, very expensive. And Kilifi County, the water being pumped from Baricho to Mombasa to Kilifi and to other parts becomes very expensive to pump because the cost, the tariffs for pumping water are the commercial ones. And yet, we are supposed to have water at very low cost. The water companies in the region cannot pay for the power tariff. So there's always disconnection of power. Hence, we do not have water in our taps. Because what plans do you have to ensure that there's a special tariff for water pumping and water generation so that we are able to? There's a lot of works that have been done through REREC and last miles, but they're incomplete because there are no transformers and there are no meters. You see a lot of wires hanging because there are no transformers. What plans do you have to ensure that those projects are completed and transformers are there and meters are available? I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Owen Baya. The Honorable Naisula Lesuda.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. If the people of Samburu West don't see me asking this question, I'll be killed today. I just want to ask the Cabinet Secretary whether he is aware that Samburu West constituency is served by a substation which is 230 kilometers away in Lanet, while there is a substation in Rumuruti which is just 100 kilometers away, although the county should have its own substation, which has been incomplete and has not been commissioned. So I just want an update on whether he's aware and when it will be completed and commissioned, so that it can avert the continuous power outage that has continued to be there in Samburu West and Maralal Town, which has brought a lot of devastation to the people.
Honorable Farah Malim.
Mr. Speaker, from the outset, I want to thank the Minister for having taken a personal initiative in making sure Wajir and the DAP are basically catered for. But what I want to ask him is that in line with the overall government policy of making sure that certain infrastructures are spread to the north, which has been traditionally in this country from the time of colonialism to the 60 years we have been independent, has been marginalized. And the road sector and other sectors are taking an affirmative action to make sure that those areas are properly served. Can the minister tell us, Cabinet Secretary tell us, what are the kind of projects, programs, and plans you have for connecting the whole of the north, what used to be called the former NFD? And I'm talking about the former Northeastern Province, Upper Eastern Province, all the way, again, parts of Rift Valley, which include the Samburu and Turkana. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Member of Parliament for Kamkunji.
Thank you, Mr.
The
Speaker.
The last time I checked, I was told the right side of the speaker is the government side.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
You'll get a chance. I know the Cabinet Secretary will be gracious enough to take your questions and have them addressed. You will have your chance. Honorable Yusuf.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is about my neighborhood of Kamukunji and specifically Isli, which has grown exponentially, which has grown rapidly in the last few years and has become a major business hub. This neighborhood is shortchanged in terms of electricity supplies, and it does not get sufficient and continuous supplies. This is a neighborhood which has become a city within a city and has been ignored, and to a certain extent has been choked to death by KPLC, which on a daily basis carries out unannounced and deliberate power cuts. These power outages are affecting and paralyzing business activities, causing heavy losses to the local traders. They include disabling and deactivating of transformers that are routinely organized by key KPLC syndicates that operates in Isli, which collects bribes and extorts the traders in the neighborhood. Sometimes these shameless KPLC operatives remove transformers from one street to the other after being paid by local traders. So the question I want to ask is, what measures is the Cabinet Secretary taking to ensure that the business hub is adequately supplied electricity and they continue to get continuous and sufficient energy supplies all the time? And what steps is also the minister taking to stop the orchestrated and deliberate power cuts? And what action would he take against this KPLC criminal group that is running amok in Isli? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable members, would you look at what is in Order 8, which is the next order?
That's why we are here.
We have the approval of an appointment to the Salaries and Remuneration Commission. But we are also noting that most of the members are asking questions not related to the questions which were previously remitted to the Cabinet Secretary. Cabinet Secretary, are you still able to take more so that you respond at once, or we leave it at that? Yeah, the Cabinet Secretary confirms he's ready to take a few more. Honorable Nabin Abuera. I'm coming that way. I'm coming towards the Cabinet Secretary. Honorable Nabin Abuera, last on the left side.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question to the minister is, what are you doing to ensure that we achieve equity in the distribution of power in the country, realizing that some constituencies like mine have been left behind in the last mile?
Honorable Letipil.
Hello everyone, my name is Nderito Bashia from Nairobi, Kenya. I am currently at